Guys. We have a really good one today. We have Charlie Kirk talking to a bunch of students, and the topic is on race, right? Particularly people of color, right? Even more particularly, people with brown skin, okay, like myself. Look, right off the bat, I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, how can he speak on it? You know, he's white or whatever the case is, right? First of all, I want to hear what he has to say. I have not seen this video yet. This is going to be a real reaction. I'm curious to see what he actually has to say. So we're going to leave it there. I'm not going to build this up any more than it needs to be. Just know that's what it's about. We get right into it without further ado. Let's rock.
Segregation ended, right? Black people were, when slavery ended, actually, black people were just forced wherever, right? So they had nowhere to go. And then there was laws put in place to put them into prison. And after,
It's okay. No. What's your name? Guys, what's your name?
Jackson.
It takes a lot of courage to come up here.
Yeah, no,
Let's just
I know.
take a deep breath. Okay, I'm not here to pick on you.
No,
and
I
I appreciate it.
Together.
No, it's okay.
I
know this can be very intimidating getting a crowd like this. So just take a deep breath. Let me make your argument. I'm going to make your argument for you, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's wrong. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the argument that is being made, that you want to make, is that there's legacies of injustice.
Yes.
And that those legacies impact one generation after the other. And when those things get handed down, you have what is a system or a systemic issue that isn't just isolated in 2024. So the argument that you're making is that what happened in 1954 does impact 2024 of decade after decade after decade. Let me tell you my response to that. Of course, there is some truth to that. However, every culture, every person in this audience can point to issues that families or generations prior had that were able to overcome. So the question is, why is it that Black America is one of the only populations, that and Native American populations, that have not been able to overcome such evil, horrors, and injustices? Here's my perspective, and I want to hear what you have to say, is that the number one way to keep people out of poverty, lower the crime rate, and have a better society is whether or not you have a mom and a dad around. Would we agree that's an ideal? Yeah? Cool.
Yeah.
So what happened in 1964 is that 25% of Black youth were raised by a single mom.
Talk
Today,
about it.
It's nearly 75%, about 70%. So that means that 1 in 4 Black kids will have a father around. Only 1 in 4. That's the number one issue happening in the country, and it's not because of systemic racism. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay.
All right, before we have to hear what he has to say about that, you're going to hear what I have to say about that. Spot on, 1000%. And that's not even most people know that, which is embarrassing for us, right? But, yes, not having the father in the home is a huge factor. And you know what? I personally didn't even realize it as much, obviously, until I grew older, and now I'm a fully grown adult. And looking back, holy smokes, that is so true, right? You need that presence in the household. And these days, getting that across to people isn't the easiest thing, right? Because we have the whole, feminist movement and all this other stuff going on. So, which again, I'm not knocking any movements, but just saying having the father is important, right? Structure, values, integrity, discipline, all of that stuff, right? Back to the video.
I think I misjudged you at first. Like when you brought up the 1350 stat, I had just assumed that it was inherently eugenics based, kind of, So, and that's where mine came from. I think we are on the same page that we know what the problem is, and that's what I mean.
No,
the
and
education.
Thank you for saying that, because I think we actually have a lot more in common in this country than the media would ever believe.
No, definitely, right? And what my point was, I was trying to say is, I don't think that we're doing enough to help these Black communities catch up. Whereas they're underfunded and they're not, and they're over policed, and there's just these factors that are contributing to, like you said, these single parent households.
Yeah, so we're not going to agree on this. This is where we'll disagree, and that's okay. I have more of a view of Thomas Sowell on this, where he believes it's far more about culture, values, and worldview than stuff and over policing. I believe there's not enough police in Black neighborhoods. You're going to disagree with that. Let's not even get into it, okay? But I think we can ask a question, and I want your opinion. Why is it that the single motherhood rate in Black America went from 25% to 75% over 50 years, where America did become less racist?
Like, why did it?
Yeah, so what caused Black America to go from one of the strongest nuclear family communities in the country to now the weakest by far?
I can't answer your
No,
question.
that's okay. No, that's great. And is, again, it's hard to get up and have these conversations. Here's my opinion. My opinion is that yes, there was some social welfare that subsidized single motherhood, which means it's easier to get cash from the government if you say you are single than if you are married. I think we can agree that's stupid. That shouldn't happen, right? But I would love your perspective on this. Do you think in Black culture, getting married and staying with one woman for your entire life is elevated and celebrated?
No, not at all.
I think that's the
No.
problem.
I think the problem stems from a lack of education. I think these communities don't have. I don't think a lot of them have the proper education or learning from previous to realize what will lead them to a more.
I'm going to disagree. Even in the lowest communities, if you compare the education to education in maybe a third world country, it's night and day. If you take the lowest of the lowest income, 40K, I was going to say 30K, you can't even survive on 30K, 40K a year, right? And just barely getting by of a community, of a town, or whatever and you go to a third world country, it is night and day. You want to talk about access to education? Night and day. Okay. And if you've been out of the country, or if you've been traveled, you get it, right? So I want to put that out there. So it's not because of that, but let's see what Charlie has to say. I have an idea of it, but let's see if he gets to it before I do.
Successful future. I think that if we funded more education in these systems, then these men wouldn't be so focused on stuff like gang violence to get protection or money or
you have a
other
great
stuff like that, and then end up in prison and then end up with their child having a single mother.
Fair enough. So
Sorry, I didn't.
no, it's great. So there's a lot of examples that there's some merit to your argument, but it's more about the quality of education than the amount of money we spend on it.
Yeah.
Such as, that's why I'm a big proponent of school choice and educational vouchers and opposing the teacher unions. But the core is this, is that the number one predictor for a kid of any skin color, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, is whether or not dad is around.
Right.
And I look as an outsider, albeit, at current Black culture, right? From the athletes to the rap music to the music, I don't see the nuclear family elevated, nor is it an internal Black cultural expectation. Now, I will ask some of the white individuals here in this audience, okay? If you guys got pregnant and all of a sudden you didn't even know who the father was around, how would your parents react? Not great, right? Yes? Unfortunately, in Black America, this is kind of accepted. Would you agree?
I can't say. I grew up around a lot of white people, so I can't
All right,
say.
okay.
Like,
Well, so, but it is a fact that it is
sure.
accepted, right? So that's the problem. The problem is that it's a cultural norm that has then turned into the cycle of poverty. The cycle of poverty can.
I'm going to correct Charlie on that, and I rarely ever do, but I would not say it's accepted, though. I would not say it's accepted. As a person of color, it's not accepted. It's tolerated. That's a better word. Tolerated, right? And that's just by default, right? Because the father's not in the home, right? So I just wanted to correct him there. That's all. That's literally it.
Break very quickly if fathers stayed with the women they impregnate.
But most of these fathers aren't just leaving. A large majority of these fathers are ending up in prison. Like,
Okay,
this is
good point. Why do you go to prison?
because you commit crimes. But
okay,
because
yeah.
the prison system has been targeted against minorities.
Again, we're not going to agree here,
right,
and that's okay.
not. Yeah.
There's actually under enforcement of the laws when it comes where there's, for example, only half of murders in Chicago get solved.
Right, but are they all Black people though?
Almost all of them, yeah. Like 80,
Well,
80.
if they're not solved, how do we know that they're Black people?
Well, because it's a Black victim in a Black neighborhood by a Black gang. So it's like you can assume at a great approximation that in the west side of Chicago,
50% of the murders in Chicago that go unsolved are all Black people.
not all.
Dead
No,
Black
I said 85%. But we don't know who the perp is. But again, if you have a Black victim at 2 a.m. in a Black neighborhood, it's reasonable to say that it was a black on black crime. 90% of murders after 2 a.m. in Chicago are black on black crimes. I'm from Chicago.
Right.
I happen to know it.
So,
right. But like half of all murders in Chicago are unsolved, which that means half of all murderers are walking free. So we have an under enforcement of laws. We have the ladies here in this audience should know this. You know that there's over 600,000 rape kits in this country that have not even been opened or tested, which means that there are women who say that they've been raped and their kits are not even put in the system. There are probably hundreds of thousands of rapists that walk free in this country.
Yeah, no, our system is
no.
totally
What I'm saying
terrible.
though, that's an under enforcement of laws, though.
Yeah, because our system is terrible.
No, I know, but you said we have an over enforcement. I don't think we have enough people in jail.
You don't think we have enough people?
No, like I said, half of all murderers walk free. We don't even know who they are.
Okay, but I sure, whatever. But I'm talking. I don't think that I don't think that black people are as more than 50% of exonerations from prison are black people. Like a black person is more likely than any other race to be tried for a crime that they did not commit, and then to be released from prison for a crime that they did not commit.
That's not totally true. Let's pretend that it is. It's because they're in front of the justice system more because of the high crime. But let's try to find some agreement.
I'm talking percentages of exonerations.
No, it's because they're in the system more, though. It's because you have more cases. But anyway, let's pretend that's true. Let's pretend the system's totally racist.
Actually, there's more white people in the system because white people make up
no, for sure.
So you're just incorrect there, right? Like you're doing to me.
But they don't commit as many crimes.
Okay, so let's be cordial. Let's be cordial.
You're not being, so let's calm down a little bit, okay?
You're not being.
Am I being sweet to this guy?
Yeah, come on, son, come on.
All right, let me ask you one question in closing, though. If you could, okay, if you could say to Black America, here is more money, more stuff, more housing, or more fathers, which one would you choose?
Here we go.
Funding. I don't think because
more funding. More funding? Let me look at the camera. More funding, bro? More funding than fathers. You want more funding than fathers. No way. I did not just hear that.
Fathers, I think that you need to solve the problem from the bottom. I don't think you can just plant a bunch of fathers in and they're going to stay there. Like you said, they're just going to, like in the culture, it's not part of the culture. So they would just leave.
It's a hypothetical, meaning if the fathers were to stay.
Were to stay?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. If I just knew for 100% fact that they were going to stay.
No,
sure.
we have agreement. So during the BLM stuff 4 years ago, did we hear anything from the national BLM leaders or anybody about black dads staying around with women they impregnate? Did anyone mention that?
No.
Why? It's the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is if you have a father around, less likely to commit crimes, more likely to graduate high school, more likely to get a job, less likely to be in poverty.
How do we get there? Like, this is what I'm like.
No,
how do we get there?
Well, the first of which is you must raise the standard of expectation, both internally and externally in the black community, that we're not going to put up with men, because we're both men, fleeing the women that they impregnate. Yeah. That we will say to men that flee the women that they impregnate, you're a loser, we're not going to tolerate you, we're not going to be friends with you, that you're the scum of the earth, that if you impregnate a woman and you just run away from them.
Most definitely.
Do we do that right now?
I don't think all men do. I think this is very common. What's the word I'm looking? I think this is very common in just masculine culture in general, is that men won't do that too.
I actually think it's the opposite of masculine culture. I think it's not feminine. It's something else. No, just fleeing from the difficult.
Well, no, but I'm saying I'm in male.
All right, so I'm saying when you said funding instead of fathers, that's when I had to turn it off, because there's some other stuff that you need to be taught. So, and by the way, respect to this brother too, right? He's entitled to his opinion, right? But ultimately, no, absolutely not. And then, he tried to say plant fathers. No, bro, you knew that's not what Charlie meant. Come on, let's be real. He meant growing up with the father in the household so they could get the discipline, they could get taught routines, they could get taught integrity. Again, they could get taught proper values, right? They could have a good upbringing, right? That's important. That's very important, especially if you have a son, right? A daughter too, but goes both ways. But yeah, so all right, guys, that's my personal opinion. I obviously I'm siding with Charlie, right? I do think that he just needs to be educated. That's all. He just needs to be educated a bit more. I'm not going to come down on him. Just needs to be educated. That's pretty much it. He did at the end, try to get Charlie, but then he fell back when he saw that, like, bro, no, I'm being respectful to you. Like, why are you coming at me? And again, these conversations can get emotional, right? Because you're talking about sensitive topics, right? So, and yeah, so, and I already know a bunch of people are going to be like, oh, well, why is he speaking on, the black people and stuff like that? And, I'm a person of color, and I'm telling you right now, he's right. Whether you think he's right or think he's wrong or whatever the case is, I mean, it doesn't matter. He's right. So that's a fact. And it starts with our communities and holding ourselves to a higher standard. All right, guys. So let me know what you think about this video. Who are you siding with here? All right, guys, thank you so much for your support. Make sure you kick the like button and punch the subscribe button for me. Until next time, peace out.